What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this episode of Home Built Workshop. Well, we knew this day was going to come. Fall is here, the weather's changing, and the beanie is back in action. One other thing that's changing, mowing season, well, it's come to an end. In this video, I want to walk you through my simple process for getting my trusty riding lawnmower cleaned up and winterized for the cold, wintry months ahead. My process is pretty simple, but I believe these steps are key to your machine starting up next year and running well for yet another season. I'm Jeff, you're watching Home Built Workshop. Make sure you stick around. So why do we even care about winterizing our riding mower in the first place? We're just gonna drag it back out next year and get it all filthy again. Just let it be, it's gonna be fine. Well, I've got several reasons that I can think of right now that make it worth spending the time. What are some things that could go wrong if you just park it the way it is? Well, number one, if it's covered in dirt and grease and oil, a lot of that dirt and dust can build up on your linkages, throttle linkage, that sort of thing. And also a lot of grass clippings as well as dirt and dust can accumulate around the bearings of your mower deck. And well, those things get wet over the winter as we're bound to get some sort of moisture. And if those sit wet all winter long, well, it can really help promote rust and cause your mower deck to rot out. Another thing that can go wrong is the battery could die. And depending on where you store your mower, that may or may not be a problem. But if you store it a ways away from any sort of power, it might be kind of hard to get the battery either charged up, or you got to go out and buy a whole new battery. And I don't know about you, but where I live, batteries don't get any cheaper from year to year. But I think the most important thing, and potentially the most expensive to repair if you don't address it in some way, is the fuel. If you leave regular fuel in your machine over the winter, there's a pretty good chance that that fuel can go bad in the winter. It doesn't take long and can also lead to your carburetor gumming up. And that's going to get costly, it's going to be time consuming, and it's really something that you might as well just not deal with by taking care of it in the first place. So those are three things that come to mind right at this exact moment. I know there's more, and if you've got some other ideas, leave it down in the comments so that we can kind of inform each other and make sure we all have kind of a list of things as we're winterizing our equipment for the winter. Winterizing our equipment for the winter. So I think we're ready to jump in and get my mower winterized. The first thing I want to do is just grab some compressed air and blow off all the dust and dirt, at least as much of it as I can. I guess that's one way to rake leaves. I'm trying to get in here around the deck and get any sticks and anything that's built up in there. You want to get that out. You don't want that to sit over the entire winter, especially around those spindles where the bearings and everything are for your blades. Got to get that cleaned out of there. And now with all the dust removed, we want to focus on getting all the grease and grime off of the engine. It gets really cruddy. We don't want to leave all that built up gunk on there over the winter. To clean up this greasy grime, I'm going to use my all-time favorite degreaser, which is super clean. Comes in the cool purple bottle or this purple spray can. I personally have used Super Clean for over 20 years for cleaning all kinds of products. And recently, Super Clean sent me some more of this stuff to use for whatever greasy tasks I need to tackle. This happens to be one of them, so shout out to Super Clean for keeping me stocked. I recommend you check some out too. If you're looking for the best degreaser, this is it. I'm not paid to tell you about Super Clean or anything. They did send me this in full disclosure, but like I said, I've been using it for over 20 years and it's the best in my opinion. So let's clean up this greasy mess. You can get Super Clean in two different kind of applicators. One is a convenient spray bottle and the other is this spray can with a foaming cleaner. For projects like this, where I have a lot of odd surfaces, I really love the foaming cleaner. It tends to cling better to the surface and really sticks where you spray it. After letting it sit on all the greasy parts for a couple of minutes, I'm just using a regular hose, no pressure washer or anything, although you absolutely could. I found that even with just regular hose pressure, it works really well at removing a lot of the dirt. The Super Clean works really well on all kinds of surfaces too. Here I'm spraying it on the tire, and just in this short clip, if you watch the back tire, you can see how the foam is turning dirty and brown as it eats away the dirt. Pretty cool stuff. While we're waiting for the machine to dry off from our degreasing process, I want to talk about the next step. I mentioned already that it's possible for fuel, especially ethanol-based fuel, to go bad after sitting for a relatively short period of time. One thing that we can do to help prevent that, of course, is to use non-ethanol fuel, which is what I personally do. But when I know for a fact that my machine is going to be sitting for an extended period of time, I like to use some fuel stabilizer added to the fuel tank of the machine. This helps prevent the fuel from going bad. Even though I know I have ethanol-free fuel in there, I'm not too worried about it going bad, but this is just a little bit extra peace of mind. And if you don't have ethanol-free fuel available in your area, this is an absolute must to add to regular ethanol-based gas. All we need to do to this is sort of loosen this cap here. We squeeze a little bit, depending on how much we're going to add to the tank, into this little reservoir here, and we can dump this in the fuel tank of our mower. One other option at this step is you could just drain the entire fuel system of your mower, then you don't have to worry about anything going bad. If you decide to go this route though, you got to remember to drain the carburetor. Now the easiest way, as far as I'm concerned, is just start the machine up once you've emptied the tank and let it run until it runs 100% out of fuel. Then you know that there's no fuel left in the carburetor or the fuel tank. This is not something that I do, but it is a valid option that you could consider. Let's go dump this stabilizer in. Once you dump the fuel stabilizer in, we need to make sure that it's circulated through the fuel system. The easiest way to do that is to fire it up and drive it around. I'm going to take this opportunity to move the machine into its parking place for the winter. Another thing I do is I raise the deck all the way up, and what that does is just gives a little bit more airspace underneath the deck. I don't want anything sitting in a lot of moisture, so I try to do anything I can to kind of keep it up off the ground because, well, this is where it's going to sit. I don't have an inside shed to store this machine in, so I try to do everything I can to help keep it as dry as possible. We've got really one last thing to take care of, and this thing's going to be pretty well set for the winter. Since this is parked and I'm not going to be using this again for many months, I'm going to pull the battery out. That way I can store it inside. Where I live, it's not at all uncommon to see 20 below zero at some point throughout the winter, and temperatures like this are really hard on a battery, especially in a piece of equipment like this that just doesn't get used in the wintertime. While it's inside, I'm going to keep it connected to a small battery maintainer so that I know it's fully charged and ready to go at the beginning of the next mowing season. I'm going to set this aside in a safe place where it's just kind of out of the way. It's going to hang out here in the shop for the winter. I do have one of those battery maintainers that I'm going to connect to this, which really does a great job at not really charging the battery, but as the name suggests, it just maintains the charge so that it doesn't go dead over the winter. But also, if you were to connect this to a charger, there's a chance that you could overcharge it. So a battery maintainer is made for just this kind of application. Last things I'm going to do is just close up the hood, flip up the seat, and don't forget to remove the key. I found my battery maintainer, so I'm going to get that connected to the battery. And really, with that being said, the only other thing I'm going to do is cover up my machine with a good quality tarp. I can't do it right at this second because I need to run to the store and pick up a new tarp that's not all torn up, but I don't have an inside space to store my machine, so I like to cover it with a tarp. That way it's at least somewhat protected from any of the snow and rain and ice and things that I know we're going to get throughout the wintertime. Once the machine's covered up, well, I don't have to think about it till spring. We've got the battery inside on a maintainer. I've got the fuel system stabilized with some fuel stabilizer, all the dirt and grimes cleaned up. It's covered up, ready to endure the winter weather that I know is coming our way. There are a couple other things that come to mind that you may or may not want to consider doing to your specific machine. And these are things like sharpening the blades. I know some people do it at this time of year when they're storing their machine away. And I can see the advantage to that because in the springtime, you just get your machine out and it is completely ready to go. Also, I know several people that like to change the oil before they let it sit for the winter time. That also makes sense to me, and I can see the benefits to it. But those are two things that I like to do in the springtime. I kind of have a routine where I go through, I service the engine, the air filter, change the oil, and all of that. And also I sharpen the blades before the first cutting. It's just something that I prefer to do in the springtime. I don't have any issue letting it sit all winter with dull blades or old motor oil. As long as I know there's oil in there, I'm totally fine letting it sit. I'll change all of that in the springtime. But if you want to do it this time of year, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Just a couple things that you may or may not want to think about. So I hope this video helped you get your mower winterized so that come springtime, it's ready to go, fires right up for another year of mowing. If you enjoyed this video, you found it helpful, hit that thumbs up button, hype the video, and also if you enjoy this kind of content, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any other episodes that come out just like this one. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bam! That's a wrap. That was kind of loud. All right, let's get this thing connected, stashed away. Oh, I knew this beanie day was going to come, but that doesn't mean I'm happy about it. Positive right there. These clamps are huge. It's going to be fine. Positive, negative. Plug that in, stash it away. Oh boy.